is the horn that was blowing. They have passed like rain on the mountains, like wind in the meadow. The days have gone down in the west, behind the hills, into shadow.
And so we reach the season finale. Throughout this peculiar adventure, we've encountered some strange and unusual retreads of character and writing that, and suffice it to say, pale when compared to prior iterations and adaptation of Tolkien's world building. But here, and with the last episode, the creators have one final opportunity to tie all these story threads together, and to deliver a somewhat satisfactory conclusion that enthuses us for a future and eventual second season. The question then remains, can they pull it off?
You serious?
We start this final episode with not Gandalf roaming about Erin Galen. The seers, witches, wraiths, whatever they are, appear, and it seems they've mistaken him for Sauron. The writers really intended us to believe it possible this Gandalf ET knockoff would serve as a satisfactory red herring even to the last.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Back with the elves, young Ned Stark informs Celebrimbor that he's failed to retrieve the necessary volumes of Mithril. If only there was some way of doing more with less, Celebrimbor ponders while clutching the single nugget of ore. Strange, I half expected the creators to break the fourth wall and counter that they achieved to make so much less with more. I'm fairly certain at this point that Jeff Bezos would prefer a redo. But alas, there's no turning back. The elves must appear to abandon these shores forever.
The time of the elves is over. My people are leaving these shores.
Alicia, our namesake Galadriel, and with a gravely wounded Halbrand arrive and seek Celebrimbor's aid. We then get an obligatory admission of wrongdoing from young Ned Stark here. I should have never sent you on that ship. I should have trusted you. It is a mistake I will not make again. Tuck this line away for later. Furthermore, he wanted for her to abandon this revenge-fueled pursuit of a perceived ghost from their past. Under this belief, his earlier motivations seem reasonable. But here, how does her encountering this supposed heir to the Southlands change anything? My issue is that so many of these exchanges, intent on bringing deeper meaning or emotive connection between characters, often fall flat and suffer from their own contrivance. How convenient also that the first person she encounters upon arriving at Eregion is young Ned Stark here, and clearly Halbrand has substantial stamina to survive his wounds on such a supposed long journey. 6 days ago he rode without rest. Perhaps this Halbrand isn't all that he seems. With Halbrand arising, we now have our Anatar Lord of Gifts, and it now should be clear for anyone remotely familiar with Tolkien that Halbrand is Sauron.
No way!
Yes way!
Of course, we then learn Celebrimbor is a complete imbecile. Consider that it only takes this stranger suggesting, at the risk of sounding a fool, couldn't the right alloy also amplify those qualities? Not a profound notion for the most renowned artisan of the law when it comes to jewels and respective craft. How did he not consider this before? An intriguing suggestion, Celebrimbor remarks. Call it a gift. Oh, and I'm absolutely not Sauron.
Oh. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
We return to Numenor, where Isildur's sister is selected to draw the king's portrait. The king stirs and grabs her arm.
There is still time to warn you, young Muriel. If the old ways of our people are not soon restored, our island will fall.
Foreboding. Don't worry, weary old king. The Queen Regent has got this. When do you predictably pass on? Oh, and what do all these scenes achieve?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
At least except other than to suggest Isildur's talented sister here will have more of a role in the future? Wait, who is she again? Has she done anything this season? Are we meant to care about this forgettable performance and character moving forward? Herein lies a notable issue with this series. The writers persistently shoehorn in numerous characters and then do nothing to develop them, even killing them off and somehow expecting us as the viewers to care.
No, and I don't
care.
Even in the next scene, and with King Gil-galad, he's had so little impact on the plot and presents yet another empty vessel receiving screen time and inane dialogue.
And you would place all that power on the brow of one being.
Not just any one being, High King, you. He informs them they have run out of time and his story, at least for this season, appears over.
Exit stage left.
Our time runs short, shorter than you know.
Time. What time do you think we have?
Frustrated Celebrimbor laments.
That I almost had it sooner. It was only speaking with the Southlander that I realized his suggestions were but the key that unlocked the dam. We are on the cusp of crafting a new kind of power. Not of strength, but of spirit. Not of the flesh, but over flesh. This is a power of the unseen world.
Alicia looks upon Celebrimbor with pensive concern.
Those words, power over flesh, where did you hear them?
To borrow the quote, a character is only as smart as the person writing them. The issue with this, assuming it were true, is you then need the audience to be equally stupid. Young Ned Stark is granted more time, but only the 3 weeks more.
Is a fool's hope, Elrond. Merely that, nothing more.
Hope is never mere.
Is there any hope, Gandalf?
There never was much hope. Just a fool's hope.
And the crafting begins.
I need royal lineages, bloodlines, anything you can find on the Southlands.
How fortunate it is to find a proactive protagonist who would simply assume him to be the heir apparent of a foreign land without any sufficient claim of proof other than a noble sigil on his person, and where he claimed to have found it on a dead man. You believed in me, you saw strength in me, you pushed me to heights that no one else could have. I will never forget that, and I'll see to it that no one else does either. Oh, and I promise you that I am absolutely not Sauron. Returning to the seers, they seek to awaken the knowledge dormant within not Gandalf, and so he can assume his true self, to become Sauron.
I don't believe you.
But as the elements grow increasingly unstable and not Gandalf starts moaning, the more androgynous of the three must knock him out and bind him until he can control his powers. The Fellowship of Harfoots then appear, and they seek to rescue him, with them distracting the seers with a whistle of their woodwind instruments, and with one of the seers having disappeared, Nori and Sadok press to free him. But not everything would be as it appears, as they are the ones deceived. With a flying sickle, Sadok is then and presumably grievously wounded. Having ignored the other Harfoots, not Gandalf then arises, and we have a battle of spellcasting reminiscent of another movie you may remember. Sadok, seemingly okay, then springs up from the ground and stabs one of the seer's feet. Resorting to throwing rocks, and upon hitting the seer, they retrieve the staff. With the seer on the offensive, and again with the fire magic, and amid the ensuing flames, Nori passes the staff to not Gandalf.
Get away from me, for I'll hurt you again. They've shown me what I am.
Only you can show what you are. You choose by what you do. You're here to help. I know it.
This might be a controversial take, but I just never expected dialogue that's supposed to resemble Tolkien to more closely align with an episode of Full House.
You're not hurting anybody. You can do anything you want to do.
Not Gandalf then fights the seers.
From shadow you came, to shadow I bid you return.
Go back to the shadow.
He's not Sauron. He is the other, the Ishtar. He is.
I am good.
I'm better than great. I am good.
And yes, they are Nazgals, and they disintegrate into numerous moths. They then rejoice over their victory, but Sadok has some bad news.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to sit down a while, watch the sun come up, and possibly catch sight of that leprechaun who has me bloody pot of gold.
Oh no, he was my favourite! Well, no, he wasn't my favourite. If not sending the hobbled Largo Brandyfoot and his family to the back of the caravan, akin to a possible death sentence, or virtue signalling about nobody being left behind, despite that proving a common occurrence, is there much redeeming about this character, aside from helping not Gandalf here?
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Arriving back to Numenor, and greeted with the ringing of bells, the king has died. Oh no, he was my favourite. He commanded such presence with his seconds of screen time. And there is an explosion of smoke and powder, then mimicked by the failed attempt to alloy the mithril. The mithril is proud,
refuses every effort to bond it with the lesser ores. Perhaps that is enough for today. Perhaps we're pushing ourselves too hard,
says young Ned Stark. And of course it is Sauron. I mean Anatar, Lord of Gifts. I mean Halbrand, who comes up with the entirely obvious solution.
Pushing yourselves too hard. Supposing that's the trouble. Suppose we've been using too much force. Meaning that the metals should not be forced to join, but more drawn or coaxed together.
Everybody got that? Good!
The messenger arrives and confirms Alicia's greatest fear. She then confronts Halbrand, him seeking to showcase their recent results.
Not until you tell me who you are, who you really are. There's no king of the Southlands. The line was broken. The last man to bear your crest died over 1,000 years ago. He had no heir.
How was this not common knowledge? Or is this because of their lifespans, where every detail outside their bubble is insignificant? And Sauron or this Halbrand confirms her suspicions.
I told you I found this on a dead man. I've been awake since before the breaking of the first silence. In our time, I have had many names.
We then get a meeting of the minds as she talks to a Joker-esque looking Finrod.
My task was to ensure peace, but I learned that was Sauron's task as well.
Will she believe in this ruse? She may just believe it. If she believed him to be the heir to the Southlands without any semblance of inquiry or investigation, we've had entire fantasy worlds, even histories, where the legitimacy of a royal claim has been the centre of focus. But in this series, it is like she just wished it into existence, and with only an old sigil as proof.
What are you so bothered about? It isn't your fault.
Yes, it is.
Ouch. It must burn to know you've spent thousands of years searching for the elusive Sauron, only to have him prance around before you, even pining for you. How embarrassing.
Do you remember what I whispered to you under this very tree? Touch the darkness once more. When Morgoth was defeated, it was as if a great clenched fist had released its grasp from my neck, and in the stillness of that first sunrise, at last I felt light of the one again, and I knew if ever I was to be forgiven, then I had to heal everything that I had helped ruin.
No penance could ever reverse the evil that you have done.
Judge, jury, and executioner. Hey now, what happened to rehabilitation? You could save him.
But that is not what you believe.
Oh, hell no!
Oh, don't you dare tell her what she believes.
Do not tell me what I believe.
No, you told me after our victory, you said whatever I had done before, I could be free of it now.
He has you there, Galadriel. I mean, Alicia.
There is no such future.
Well, now, that just seems entirely defeatist, isn't there?
I alone can see your greatness. I alone can see your light. I would make you a queen, fair as the sea and sun, stronger than the foundations of the earth.
Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth!
Remember Ghostbusters? I remember.
You bind me to the light, and I bound you to power. Together we can save this Middle-earth.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy.
Willful ignorance, or may he have a point? We've been told all along how super special and awesome she is. Imagine a world only populated by Alicias.
And that is why I'll never be at your side.
What will they do when you tell them that you are my ally? When you tell them that Sauron lives because of you?
Sorry, mate, don't think that will get you very far here. This lot have the memory of goldfish. Didn't even realise there hasn't been a king of the Southlands for over 1,000 years.
And you will die because of me.
And then drowning before she's pulled from the water.
Galadriel, stop. It's Elrond. It's Elrond.
They can keep telling us this here is meant to be Elrond, but I just can't really see the resemblance myself, other than the pointy ears.
Let it go, knife is.
Where did we first meet?
What good will this do? Has he not already infiltrated your memories? Or is he and Finrod the same person? Is Sauron your brother?
Where is Halbrand?
He is gone, and I doubt he'll return. And should he ever, none of us are to treat with him again.
Bitch, are you for real?
Any comment about Sauron?
What happened by that stream?
You spoke to me once of a mistake, when you said you would not make again.
Stanley, there's no time for your immaturity. Do it! All right, Sharon, now do me.
You are making that promise very difficult to keep.
But you will, won't you? On what basis? Only your own sense of ill-explained principles?
So do we proceed?
No, we must make 3.
Back with not Gandalf, well, he is now bargain bin and knockoff Gandalf. Istar, in your tongue, that means wise one, or wizard.
I think I've had about as many adventures than any Harfoot could hope for.
I think I'm quite ready for another adventure.
I turn around. I won't ever be able to leave.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
There it is.
Are you sure?
Not entirely. There is a sweet smell on the air this way. When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot, always follow your nose.
Statway, if you die in the Enoch, always follow your nose.
Need I say anything more? That should be a rhetorical question, certainly not from these creators. Fanfic, and for some, has its place. And while this is a travesty and one of the worst things I have ever seen, I'm not being hyperbolic. But what this show does achieve is simply to showcase how clever and innovative Tolkien was, and with how well Jackson adapted his work, at least with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But yes, and I didn't very much like the Hobbit trilogy, it is still a significantly better adaptation than this tripe. We finish with Anakin Skywalker, or apparently Walter White, and we're done.